Yeah.
Yeah, a lot now.
Yeah.
Mickey Schwartzbeck, President CEO, Sherwood State Bank.
Jim Williams, Northern Market President, and Bringer Bank.
Jane Mackey, president here.
Michael Maris, Business Development, Keller Freight.
Kevin County Operations Training Manager, Keller Freight Solutions.
Sarah Tackett, Executive Director and CEO of the Defiance Chamber of Commerce.
David Kern, Defiance County Commissioner.
Okay, I already introduced myself.
Dana Phipps, Defiance County Commissioner.
Mick McCraskey, Defiance County Commissioner.
And then Treasurer, if you want to introduce yourself and
Sure.
kind of give a little bit of background, and then we can get started.
Sure, absolutely. I'm Robert Sprague. I'm from Findlay, Ohio. My wife Amanda and I live there. We have 5 children. I've been treasurer with the state of Ohio now for 4 years and just won re-election for my 2nd term. And so in our 2nd term, we are looking, and I told my staff, I said, look, we're not trying to have success 4 years from now. We're trying to have significance today. And so I guess what I was hoping that we might be able to get out of this meeting is I wanted to hear what's working well for you. This is a little something we're working on with our family. We said, look, this year, we're going to try new things. We're going to play fast. We're going to take risks. If things don't work, we're going to leave them to the side. If they do work, we're going to keep them and try to improve on them. And so that's kind of a little bit what we want to do for the Treasurer's Office and for the state of Ohio. We're at an inflection point with our state. You know, it used to be that we didn't have enough jobs for all the people in our state. And it looks like over the next 40 years, as long as we have good loans, we're going to have, the problem is going to be that we don't have enough people for all the jobs that we're going to create in the state of Ohio. And Defiance shares a little bit like Findlay and Astoria and Toledo and many of the other places in Northwest Ohio. We still know how to make things. So I think we're uniquely positioned for success. But I wanted to hear from you what's happening in Defiance, whether it's at the college or from our banking partners and our financial institutions here locally or our local businesses. What sort of things are you finding that are working for you this year, and what are your barriers to success?
I'll start.
Yeah.
So we're part of workforce development. We look at it as a continuum, and we're trying to fill that continuum from the college degree, or even associate degree forward. And we've been really focusing on STEM because we know that's an important component of some of the jobs being created. We just added a dual enrollment program for engineering. So we're trying to feed a particular sector of workforce development. Obviously, the conversations happening about the need or the not need for higher education affect enrollment and students' desire to come. So we work on enrollment. We're trying to grow to 1,000 students, both graduate, undergraduate students. And we have some distinctive programs. One of them is Jacket Journey that helps employers get value added from day one on the job. And it works in tandem with the academic skills to help our students be ready to write the appropriate email as opposed to, hey dude, right? I said this at a chamber thing yesterday or this week. And so we're trying to do what we need to do in the state. We have folks who want to be local for education and stay local for education. I would also add that, you know, we're a liberal arts-based college, and I would contrast that with the liberal and conservative ideologies to say it's about opening the mind, letting the mind be ready to be educated, to take in knowledge, dating back to Cicero in 1460 rather than current day kind of ideological things. It's about a well-rounded education. And we contribute, even at our small size, about $51 million in impact in our regional economy. So we're significant.
That's great. Well, you're definitely having significance. Let's talk a little bit about some of our manufacturers and our logistical providers, and then maybe we'll touch base with our financial institutions. But tell us a little bit about how are things going for you? What are you seeing in the marketplace, and how are your workforce needs being met?
Yeah, so things are going well. My role, I do a lot of hiring and training specifically. So we started a College Credit Plus program to try to retain all the talent that is in Northwest Ohio. I can't really speak for Alderman Brian Keller, but one of his passions is the community. I think everyone in the state will probably know that. So that's something specifically. I was out of the area for about 10 years, and moving back, I was so excited to be back in Defiance, love all things Defiance. So it's been nice to start this program. We're doing all we can to bring in and retain people and get them excited to stay and say, hey, look at all the things that we have in Northwest Ohio, whether it's at Keller or not, with our internship programs and just a lot of things that we're trying to do to get the talent and keep it in Northwest Ohio. But also it's an area that I think we're struggling with too. So that's why we're starting these new programs.
Anything else, Alan?
Nope, I'm brand new to my role. I'm the second one he said.
Okay, very good. That's good. What about our other manufacturers at the table or other?
Well, I'll speak to that because we meet with them on a regular basis at the Economic Development Office. I would say that we have a lot of manufacturers that, despite the way the market is, they have to ramp up or they're going to lose contracts. So they're spending the money to do that no matter what the cost is. But then we have this other pool of manufacturers where they really want to expand, but they can't because of the cost, because of, just the higher cost in construction, maybe higher cost in just the interest rates. So I see both sides of it. I don't know how we can help these others. We try to help them with some of the different incentives, but it doesn't seem like it financially models for them. So they're waiting it out, but unfortunately, waiting it out, I think it's just going to cost them more down the road.
Right. Well, if the inflation continues, let's talk to some of our banking partners here and our financial institutions. Let's just go down the line and Jim, if you can tell us a little bit, you're with Premier Bank. Tell us a little bit about how's the depository base looking? How's the credit profiles looking? Just tell us a little bit about what you're seeing in the marketplace.
Well, fortunately, I think Northwest Ohio we're benefit from very strong credit. I won't speak for all the banks, but I'm guessing it's probably across the board. Companies are still doing very well in Northwest Ohio. Deposit base, we're fortunate that we're very broad, so we don't have isolated. There's a narrow deposit base, which is some of the banks that you've read recently about that have a broad commercial and retail deposit base. So I think from that aspect, that brings strength in Northwest Ohio banking. I think clients are still doing very well. And I think the growth kind of goes along with what Erica said. There's still a little bit of pause about being able to hire due to the cost of inflation and cost of construction. And then interest rates are impacting. So I think there's still some desires out there for growth, but there's still some caution flags that people are not sure about. But overall, I think they're still doing well.
Are you seeing the monetary base contract at all, or do you feel like it's still sufficient to meet lending needs?
I think it's sufficient to meet the lending needs. I don't know that it's aggressive as it was the last 24 months probably, but I think it's fine for what's going to happen this year. But I think it's going to contract some this year. So that's what I think. It's coming down a little bit, and we're still able to lend. So I think it's kind of meeting there. It's not quite as aggressive as it was before.
Man, we got so spoiled with all the low interest rates. What do you see? Have manufacturers really had to scale back, or what are you seeing from your base?
Actually, we're a real small community bank, but actually we deal with a fair amount of manufacturing, local factories, small, 20 to 50 employees. Everything's pretty good. I got one particular one that's struggling a little bit because they deal with a larger manufacturer and they've cut back, so they're struggling a little bit, but they're doing all right. A lot of what I see is the challenge of, we fought that battle so hard for employees over the last couple of years that right now some of them probably would love to lay off some because things are a little bit slower on the orders, but they're not laying them off. They're keeping them. They're trying to gain some employment, build up inventories, do things because they don't want to have to go through that battle of again getting employees. From a monetary standpoint, funding, we've seen a shift. Star Ohio's killing us right now because the rates that are up there. So we do a lot of the small villages and townships and so forth deposits. We're a lot of times they're primary. We've lost a lot of that funding. In fact, I've kind of even encouraged it. Why wouldn't I, go get that 4-point-something% and get a Star Ohio today? So we've had to replace that with local deposits. So what we've seen is a shift where there is people in our area, regular traditional consumers that are bringing CDs into the bank and so forth. So we've been kind of neutral. forever because we were so flush with liquidity. We ran everything down to where we didn't have a lot of borrowings and so forth. But on my drive over here today, I was borrowing $1 million from Federal Home Loan Bank just because, again, we have had a lot of loan need. We're actually still up. We're up about almost 3% through the first 3 months here of the year in loans. We grew 21% in loans last year. So we're seeing a shift, I think, from some of the different financing sources back into the small community banks as a whole. So we've definitely benefited from that. But the public funds issue, again, I was a big user of the pool before the changes to the pool program. Now we can't do it because our data processor doesn't provide the daily reporting that we need. So we got kind of kicked out of that. So that's kind of created a little bit of a challenge for me to pledge to those. I'd be happy to talk to you offline sometime more about that.
Absolutely.
Other than that, things are going good. I also am on Northwest State Community College Board of Trustees. So they're same thing, the workforce development push from the governor's office. We've obviously heard the message and seen it, and we're ramping up, trying to do a lot of things we can with different certificate programs outside of stuff. I've encouraged the two presidents of Defiance County and Northwest State to talk more about how we can partnership again, more like we did back in the old days when I went to Defiance County. But the big challenge I see globally is I was on the local school board and then on Northwest State. I went to Defiance College, but is the whole funding model as a whole. I had 4 children. Majority of them went to 4-year colleges, not in the area. I want to go to Defiance College. But, again, I'm trying to work on retaining people in this area. All 4 of my children still live in Northwest Ohio and Defiance County specifically. So I'm very fortunate, but a lot of parents are not. Their children go off. And some of that's driven by, I think, the funding models that we have for our schools, because we don't have a state 4-year program here. We don't give them a good option. So we force them to leave our area, which is a concern for me. I've actually, way back in the day, worked with the Economic Development CIC board on some initiatives to try and keep some of those jobs and keep some of those people in our area. So it's kind of the brain drain concept, definitely, but Defiance College is a great option. I graduated from there, I graduated from there, one of our children graduated from there. But a lot of people overlook it and pass it and head to the state schools because of the funding model and the education expense they're gonna have to take on to do it. So that's what I'm at.
All right.
I can talk on that.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, we'll talk more about some of our collateralization offline here. That's, I know that'll make everybody else's eyes roll in the back of your head if we start talking about collateral requirements. But tell us a little bit about the financial condition of the public entities and Defiance Defiance College.
I've only been in my job a month. John could
I've been in my job about 3 months. I
Yeah.
really stepped on the president's toes, but
prior to that was a school treasurer.
Okay.
So, there are a lot of similarities between the two when it comes to funding streams, but there are many, many differences. But just from what I'm seeing is the same thing as the school, is just the cost of everything you go to do has significantly increased, whether it was buying a school bus or fixing a road. You're seeing the huge increase of expense, and then how to balance that with what do we need staffing, what do we need to improve, fix what, just a huge balancing act from the public school system to now the city has been my experience, but I'm very, very new. So I've had to email him some just to wrap my head around different things, because there's no cafeteria, there's no busing and no athletics. Now there's water and sewer, and there's plenty that replaced all of that. So it's been really good, and I've had a lot of support from him and everybody else. So.
Well, I was treasurer and then auditor for the city of Findlay. And one of the things that's inescapable about cities is they're just like school systems, and that they're big service organizations.
Yes,
right? So
correct.
Like 86% of your costs tie back to a person at some point.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
But you still got to maintain the water and the sewer and the road,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Lights and all those things.
Correct.
That's good. That'll be a challenge.
Yes.
yeah, I would only add that, during the pandemic, there was money flying around all over the place, from the federal government to cities to schools to everybody. And that money has dried up at the same time that inflation has gone crazy. So it's pressure for sure.
I think that's true. And, you know, that there has been a lot of money. I think the challenge for the state is how do you, and the counties and the cities, is how do you spend that one-time money responsibly?
Exactly.
You know, because you don't want to really supplant operational money because you know that eventually you'll run a deficit. So, you know, that's a concern. How are things in the commissioner's office with regards to the one-time money? I mean, I'm sure you're wrestling with the same situation that the city is, right?
Right, yeah, so really what we did is, and jump in, obviously, Jim. We kind of allocated our money into kind of thirds, so we saw the need for wastewater projects. We saw the need, obviously, the greater need for broadband and what that will do, you know, economically all around. And then we had some water issues. So we kind of separated our ARPA dollars into 2-3 pots. So we just allocated it right off the bat, knew what we were gonna spend it on. So those projects are obviously ongoing because it takes, you know, there's a process. But other than that, we didn't want to do something where we committed to build a brand new building where we're gonna have ongoing expenses and now we're going backwards. So right from the beginning, we set that standard. Other than that, the county, we're doing well, I feel. Feeling the pressure of like what John was saying with like staffing. Staffing is a big issue. You know, it's a revolving door, trying to get people in, trying to determine the wage structure of what's going to entice people to stay, but it's also not going to cause the county issues down the road. Yes, and I think a lot of that is attributed to the fact that all that money is now dried up, and then some people want to go to work. So I feel it's going to come around once the money's all dried up, and you know people will be forced to get a job. But I think we're in that balancing act as well. We're in an iffy spot right now, so I'm not totally convinced that we're in the clear yet financially as a, you know, as a state, as a country, but we haven't noticed a very big impact on the negative side, so I'm staying very optimistic.
Well, I think it sounds like a wise spend of your federal money. Anything else to add?
Well, unfortunately, we're not alone in that type of thinking, looking at those types of projects. At the county level, we have so many miles of wastewater lines and water lines, and unfortunately, there's not been money to repair and maintain that infrastructure for a long, long time. And with this one-time influx of money, we're seeing it as a gold mine. We can fix some of these things that previous boards chose not to because they didn't have the funding. Unfortunately, other entities, townships and counties are thinking the same thing. So there's just not enough contractors out there to do all the work that needs to be done. So we have concerns about being able to spend the money we've been allocated on time. We're worried about losing it. And obviously, when you talk about significant millions of dollars in projects, the government is slow. It takes so long to get from this is what we want to do to, oh, when are we going to do something? I mean, David just the other day said, finally, we can really truly spend some money on a project. We would love to see those deadlines expanded out a little bit, not just because the slowness of government, but also because of there's no contractors out there to do the work because everybody's doing the same work somewhere else. So that's where we're at with that.
Tough to even find some of the raw materials, right? The steel and the concrete and the pumps and so on and so forth.
Yeah, we just had, I can't even remember, it was like a control board or something the other day that we needed for I think it was one of our boilers, and there's a 40-week lead time.
A 40-week?
40-week lead time on a small part to get a boiler up and running. So you're virtually almost forced to buy new or do a full replacement if, you know, so that's unfortunate, but I guess that's
They would need to figure out how to 3D print that sucker. What about a 3D printer? Yeah, I'm sure they probably could, right? At this point. So tell us.
You had talked about manufacturing and anything that I've got to say about that would not be foreign language to anybody sitting here. For generations, people like me of my age, our kids were going to go to college. We never had discussions on if you're going to go or not. The discussions were where are you going to go? And because of that, the people who would normally go into the work, the work effort right after high school, those kids weren't there anymore, or at least the numbers weren't there like there used to be. And I'm not saying the colleges or parents have failed our kids, but kind of sort of have.
Well, I would say we went to the conversation, everybody's going to college. Now we're at, no one needs to go to college, and somewhere there's a balance.
Right.
Between aptitude and skill and what you want to do. So we're not any elitist here about who should go or shouldn't go, but there are going to be needs, and the growing needs are going to be both non-college degrees and college degrees and beyond as we go forward.
I'm from
Trying to
Hicksville.
balance it, right?
I'm from Hicksville, and we have a guy over there that has his own little factory, and he couldn't find anybody to work. So he created a program. I think he recreated a program that was here years ago, to bring in high school kids to learn the trades, and made some noise at the state level. Erica, correct? I mean, he got a lot of money from the state to help further this program. And he's not alone. I mean, he talks to all these other guys who own their own little small mom and pop factories, and they have the same thing. They don't have any employees. So that's an issue here.
Well, I think it's important, right, that we don't set up this as kind of an either or, right? I mean, some of these things are not choices, It's definitely a continuum. I think of myself as a mechanical engineer, not a very good one, because I went into finance, but I've always been interested. I mean, I enjoyed shop. We had shop when I was in school. And it provided an interest in kind of a base level of skills for my engineering degree. So let's just switch back to finance here. So tell us a little bit of, we've got one of our regional banks here. Tell us a little bit about what you're seeing from kind of an entire region standpoint.
Yeah, so I'm a Northwest Ohio guy, had experience to spend about 15 years working with Premier Bank. So before I moved over to a regional bank, so I've got flavor of our local economy, what's going on here. One of the things I think is interesting that we're seeing, you talk about manufacturing and businesses, is keeping those people involved, keeping people here, getting labor. I know, like, I live in Williams County, so just a county north of here, and there's a public-private partnership being formed to try and drive housing because they see the need for people, and so they're kind of coming together to build affordable housing in Williams County, which is a nice, I think, tool that's being put together to try and solve what is about a 2,000 person problem that they have in our county. So they're working with any entity they can. Businesses are contributing to it, municipalities, counties, whatever, are part of this project and program. And it's actually got some nice legs going to try and solve what is a problem I think a lot of businesses have right now. The other thing we're seeing on the manufacturing side from most of our businesses we're hearing is just inflation, cost of materials. Labor costs have gone up, and everyone kind of knows that and they plan for that. But the inflationary costs that have hit have just been something that's really hurt them. And what's happened is you kind of have, I call it the Charmin theory going on right now, which is,
this should be good.
if you remember when COVID happened, everyone went out and bought toilet paper, right? And they stockpiled all this toilet paper and hoarded it because Lord knows they weren't going to make more toilet paper, right? Except that what happened was they did, and you really weren't using any more toilet paper than you used. You just had closets and cupboards full of it sitting on your shelves at home, right?
Except for me.
Except for Eric.
Couldn't find any.
Well, the business world, what's happened is a very similar thing in that all these businesses went out and have stockpiled all this inventory. Retailers have stockpiled all this inventory. They bought. They saw inflation coming. They saw these things happening as they could manage it, and they stockpiled their shelves. So now these manufacturers are sitting here saying, hey, we've got a little bit of a slowdown, we've got a little bit of a lull or some unevenness going on here. And what's happened is, so now they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we plan for what does that volume look like? And in an inflationary environment, it's a high, replacing what was the inventory you produced a year ago is a lot of times 50% more expensive to produce it today. And so that's an expensive thing for a business to try and figure out, how am I going to manage that? And we're talking to a lot of business owners that are trying to figure out, what does today look like? What does 2023 feel like? How do I solve my labor problem? How do I solve my inventory management problem? How do I solve, there's just so many moving pieces right now. It's a challenge from that perspective. From the banking side, I can comment on Northwest Ohio. I can't comment on Key Bank as a whole. We're seeing loan demand and we're continuing to see loan demand, which is nice, and we're happy with that, and we're funding it. We've not seen the deposit run that SVB obviously saw. Our deposits have been fairly stable, and we're happy with that. But we're seeing some opportunities on the loan side, and we're happy to fund those as they come. But funding them comes at a price now. And so, when you were used to paying 3.5% for the last 10 years, and now you're paying 8%, some sticker shock there to a lot of people. And so does the mechanics work for a lot of these investments that you want to make if you have to fund them with debt? It's an expensive thing to analyze. That's tough.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, right, it's what happens in every economic, once the Fed puts the brakes on and begins to raise interest rates, people have to think twice about what pencils out in terms of whether things are going to cash flow.
And are we at an inflection point where they've decided they're going to hold steady, or are they going to keep going with interest rates? I don't think anybody knows the answer. Maybe you would have a better connection on that than we would.
No, I really don't know. I think the question really is something that they don't know, which is what is inflation going to do? Have they really tampered down inflation, or will it continue to rise? And as long as it rises, they don't have any choice but to continue to contract the monetary base. But you're beginning to see the pressure on the banking system, but that's so boring for everybody else. So we probably shouldn't consume our roundtable with it. I could talk for hours about it. But tell me again what you do. Are you manufacturing?
No, I'm small business, farmers and merchants.
Farmers and merchants. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Tell us about that.
I'm probably closer to the retail side, the consumer lending. Recently I was doing quite a bit of that. We've definitely seen hit auto sales with the rates going up. People are holding off. Used car prices are coming down, but not as much, not back to where they were.
As those used car values come down, are you gonna have any problem with the residual values for leases and things like that?
I don't think that we're a little more conservative maybe, so I'm not concerned with our bank. Nationally, there could be a used car bubble. I don't know. The average age of cars on the road is increasing again as people are getting nervous. They're starting to, some of the dealerships have told me they're seeing people hold on to their lease instead of turned in and get a new lease. So it's going to have effects down the road. I have read that delinquencies on auto loans have gone up quite a bit, and that's concerning. Not sure where it's going to play out. Consumer deposits have dropped some, but that's from a high thanks to stimulus checks coming into accounts. That money's been spent. Accounts have dropped. With the dynamic rate environment, I think consumers have gotten savvy. They're shopping around quite a bit. We're all fighting for deposits at the banks, running specials for checking accounts, savings accounts, CDs, and we'll see inflow after we make some adjustments to our rates, and another bank will make adjustments to their rates, and they'll see the inflow. And it's not so much that the money's flowing out, it's just flowing to different banks based on who's got the better rate. And it changes so much.
It's like being at the gas station, right?
It is. It really is. Talk about the employment. We don't have enough people to work, or who want to work, or who have the skills that are required. We see the wages going up
The
across the
unemployment
board.
rate is really low now. It's like 4%.
Yes.
Maybe even a little less.
Yeah, it's a little lower now, but.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's, how many different grades of unemployment. There's a U6 and U8 numbers, and they all count differently. You have to be looking for work to be unemployed. So we have, we're in a bit of a wage price spiral. I think businesses held off on increasing prices. They had to pay people more to get them to come to work. And now we're seeing as another driver of inflation, you have to raise prices to pay people more.
and we're still fighting for the same employees. I think that's a stressor that we're dealing with across every industry right now.
So tell me what you do again.
County Commissioner.
You're with the commissioners as well. I'm sorry, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I piggyback on these two, and they said everything I needed.
You didn't want to be the third commissioner that was the antagonist and say, no, we're not doing this.
I'm the quiet one.
Oh, okay, all right. He's got a lot of wisdom there. So,
And we do have a question on
Sure.
here, and it says, as far as barriers, I would like to mention the access to capital for small businesses. I applaud initiatives we are taking, such as the homegrown program and other state initiatives to help ease the struggles, but it's still a concern. And Erica can kind of touch on what the homegrown program is, but
okay.
our office does have a few programs that we're currently in the process of starting and that we've already started, like mentorship programs, second chance programs, and our homegrown program, which are to help with some of these concerns.
So the homegrown program is a council that we've created here recently, with the intent of trying to grow our economy from within, with giving that support to our local companies that are already existing or wanting to start a business. So we've created that. We do have a grant program that we started with thankfully with Premier Bank. They're partnered with us on that. So we've started that. Also, there's some other components to it where we're soon going to be offering GIS mapping, where some of the small businesses can identify where their customer clusters are, but then also identify where some of their other customers that they haven't been targeting that they could target. We're going to look at e-commerce and assisting some of these small businesses that are not on platforms to get them on platforms. There was a company during COVID-19, right before it really got really bad. They said, if this happens, we're probably going to have to shut our doors. They made customized welding parts. They hired a person that was an expert at eBay. They started selling some of their products on eBay. And then instead of having to lay off during the pandemic, they actually hired 30 new people. So that's what we're trying to hopefully encourage and grow our county. But with that, there still isn't a lot of support for small businesses. And I mean, so any guidance that you could provide there would be wonderful.
There's not, I think that the Department of Development has programs for small businesses. We have a Grow Now program with the State Treasurer's Office where we'll do a link deposit. We'll reduce the interest rate for small businesses. That'd be something we could partner on if you have industries or small businesses that are interested in partnering with us in doing that. We'd love to work with our local financial institutions and work with them on a link deposit to be able to lower the interest rate for a loan. So,
No, I think that's super helpful. I know that when I met with Patrick from your office, he talked about how you guys have an economic development division where you have some of these programs. And I was new to the area when I first met him, but I found what your programs could be quite impactful. So I just think we need to get the word out here locally in Defiance County that these are an option.
It's a good program, and I'll just say for everybody at the table, in case you don't know, our link deposit program allows you as a small business owner, if you take out a loan, you can reduce your interest rate anywhere from 0.5% up to 3%, which I remember we were actually talking with the General Assembly about the farmers and about 2 years ago. And we said, look, nobody really is using the AgLink program. And they said, well, why is that? I said, well, because the amounts are too small. We had capped at $250,000. No, I think $150,000, $150,000. And people were saying, look, Robert, nobody's planting anything in Ohio for that right now. I mean, it's just, you can't even do it. It's not even worth filling out the paperwork. And we go to talk to the General Assembly. The General Assembly said, well, you can't reduce the interest rate 3% from zero. Why is this going to be important? We said, well, because the interest rates are not always going to be zero. Right? And so here we are. It's a really good program. The AgLink program has taken off. We've seen the largest subscription to it in the history of the program. So it's been phenomenally subscribed. So those are the type of things that we can offer out of the Treasurer's Office. Be able to lower the interest rate.
What about for housing developers? So we do have some housing developers that would want to engage, but the interest rates have them kind of holding back. Is there anything like that?
There really is not anything for housing developers. I will tell you, just to go back to our comment from Williams County and the affordable housing discussion, I think for about 10% of our population in Northwest Ohio, that the discussion is around affordable housing.
Mm-hmm.
But for the other 90%, it really is about, for all of us, housing affordability, which has also been difficult, just to afford to buy a new house. And so that is kind of at its base, really a workforce issue. On housing, we're not going to be able to keep people, we're not going to be able to attract new people to our communities. So we need those developers to be able to build houses. But, I'm a big believer in the free markets. As Milton Friedman said, he said, free markets basically give you what you want at a price that you want it at. And so we want the free market to be able to work with our housing needs. So one of the things that we're doing in the treasurer's office, as opposed to necessarily subsidizing housing development, is we are trying to incentivize people to save for a down payment for their first home. So this program is Call Ohio Home, because we want more families to be able to call Ohio home. We're hoping that we're working with the governor's office to kind of finish up the different pieces on construction. Once the authorizing language gets through the budget, we hope to get that set up in July or August to be able to talk more about home ownership here in the state of Ohio with our financial partners and with small businesses, and talk a little bit more about housing around the state of Ohio. So I think it's going to be good. It's going to be a really good program.
Awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions for me in terms of what the state is doing, or do you need any help? Another piece I noticed, as we're talking about infrastructure, you're talking about water and sewer investments. And again, all that stuff seems kind of mundane until the water line doesn't work, or right, or the sewer line is having a problem, or you've got Intel knocking at your door, and they love to have the site right outside Defiance, and you can't run the water and sewer there. You haven't run the water and sewer to the development. And so, these things are huge for us in terms of our infrastructure as a state. Probably the city of Defiance probably spending a lot through cash right now, just because you've got big cash balances. Probably think it doesn't make sense to borrow much on your balance sheet. I'm sure the county is doing the same, right? We have all this cash, plus, up here in Northwest Ohio, we're pretty conservative, so nobody wants to borrow any money. So there's a lot of good financial flexibility, but sometimes it's good to use that flexibility to be able to borrow money and use your balance sheet, particularly if the inflation does continue. I think somebody said this, but at the table already, I can't remember who it was, but the costs could continue to rise, right? So if the costs continue to rise, that means you're paying that debt back with more depreciated dollars over a 30-year period. I'll tell you what's interesting as a public finance official, you look at these bonds that were issued that you're paying off in the 1990s, and you're just amazed at how low the debt service payments are, because in today's dollars, they look minuscule. So it's that idea of actually using inflation to your advantage for your capital needs and being able to use your balance sheet. One of the things we're working on right now, kind of whiteboarding within the treasurer's office, is there a way for us to help local governments with their balance sheet and be able to utilize their balance sheet for infrastructure needs in the state of Ohio? Because cash is not going to be here forever. Eventually, that ARPA money and all the CARES Act money is going to be spent through. And then the question is, where do we go from here? And at the end of the day, kind of the future of Ohio depends on two basic things that we're both very good at. The first is being able, we have infrastructure that most states could never replicate. We have a size and scale that you can't find other places. But a lot of that infrastructure needs to be renewed or refreshed. So, refreshing our infrastructure. And then the second piece is this workforce development, having people with the skills and wanting to live here in areas like Defiance. So I think it's an exciting time for our state, and we're just going to tackle these two issues, and I think the sky's the limit for us. Just to go back to this workforce piece. So a lot of people, a lot of programs that have been done in terms of workforce Let's just wrap up here in the last 5 minutes. If you were to take, a single workforce program, and we'll just kind of go around the room here, something that you think has worked, what would what would it be, either within your company or your organization or within a client? If you were to highlight one thing that you think has worked here in Defiance for workforce, tell us about that, or tell us what you think hasn't worked. So we'll start here with our friends at Keller Logistics.
I think the mentorship has been working out. I know Kevin's part of that. He was talking a little bit more on that. I'll let him speak to that since he's part of that, but I think it's really working.
Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so we started a mentorship program, just to really welcome our new hires into Keller and not just train them in their current role, but to give them someone in a different department, just they can confide in and ask questions and just show them it's all about culture at Keller. So we want people to buy into that. And along with the College Credit Plus program, to try to get high school age individuals bought into Northwest Ohio and show them that, hey, you can start work even part-time in high school. We'll pay for the schooling, get you associates if you want to continue to get your bachelor's, and continue work at Keller. We'll offer any help we can to get you to get your education and stay in Northwest Ohio.
It's a huge benefit. Anything to add with your clients or things that you're seeing that people use or succeed with?
Right, through the chamber, we've had a growth in new membership from small businesses. Steady membership from the larger industries and good sponsorship support there. But a lot of new applicants to become members through small business. And what we're seeing is a big increase in, can I post a job on the job board? That's a new component on our website that we've added. We've also had a good response to on social media. We'll share open positions from our chamber members, and we call it Find a Job Friday. And so our marketing person, Jessica, is really great about looking across the membership to see what openings are there and then sharing 3 or 4 every Friday through social media. And that seems to be, it's a very cost-effective way to share those openings, but a lot of people are noticing that on their social media, and hopefully that's helping the employers to attract applicants.
That's a great benefit. Everybody needs to sign up for the chamber just to use that benefit.
Yes.
Our commissioners, any thoughts there, things that you're doing that are working or not working?
I think, well, Erica's office, I'll let her speak to it more, but Erica's office is doing a great job with workforce development. But I'll kind of speak, I was on the school board also. I'll speak for the schools in the aspect of schools are doing a lot better job of kind of pinpointing with the students, which students are going to be more geared for college, which ones are going to be more geared for a trade, and pushing those trades a little bit more than what it has been in the past. So I think, like you were stating, there's a need for both. And in rural Ohio, a lot of times there's a need for trades a little bit more on the immediate basis. So schools have been ramping up that effort and promoting that and doing the STEM or getting, maybe it's the local unions to come down to teach a trade so they can at least learn a trade, whether it's going to be contracting or electrical or floor covering. So that push has filled the gap. I noticed that I also owned a construction company for quite a while, and it was hard to get those employees. So once the school started to do that push, you started seeing some interest in like, okay, I don't have to go to college if I don't want to. I can go make a really good living and be proud of it by doing a local trade and filling the gap locally to keep them here. So I think schools have made a big difference in that aspect.
That's great. Anything else from the commissioner standpoint you want to mention?
Well, I go back to this little mom and pop factory in Hicksville, A&B Tool, and Tony Nicewander, who created this program where he was bringing high school kids in, and he was using the local experts inside his factory to teach these high school kids. And I happened to be the janitor of that factory at that time when he started this program. So I saw firsthand the excitement in the eyes of these kids who were learning robotics and were learning welding. Tony made the comment that he can't find people to work, so he's going to grow his own workforce. And virtually that's what he's done.
I think a lot of people have kind of taken that approach, interestingly enough. I'm gonna let you go last, Erica. We're gonna end with you, and you can kind of wrap things up. Anything from this side of the I'm sorry, I didn't want to go over you, Commissioner.
That's right. Things I wrote down, Dave and Mick had already just spoke about, so,
Okay.
yeah, they
All right.
almost verbatim.
But it's always the quiet guy at the table that has all the good ideas, so. All right.
I really don't have anything.
I'd go back further to elementary school. Brain drain is a big problem around here, and it's not just a skills gap, although the skills gap is important. These kids, they don't know anything about their community. They don't know anything about their state. They have no emotional attachment to where they're from. They can't wait to leave. My older two, they getting through college and out the door. When we teach the children at an elementary level what happened in the past in their hometown, why it's significant, when we get them engaged with cleaning up the parks, they overcome that tragedy of the commons and they take ownership of where they're from. They have an emotional attachment and they don't want to leave. They want to stay, they want to be part of their town story, and they want to make it a better place. But we've taken all of this out of education. We've streamlined to state tests. They don't give a good indication of students with their aptitude, where they're heading in life, and we've lost that community control. The focus is just all wrong. And I think we've seen, as this has developed over the years, as local control of education has gone away, the kids don't stay.
Amen.
That's an interesting point. I've not really considered that. I think it's true from my own experience too.
I'm gonna defer to the president to correct me.
Oh, that
or
was
fill in
very
the blanks.
smart.
But
Yeah, I
what
like him already.
what I will
That's
say is that
very
the
good.
college is just about to reinvigorate its adult education program, specifically a degree completion program, at least initially targeted at folks who hold their associate's degrees, but are interested in later in life in pursuing a bachelor's degree. And so that's kind of our contribution to workforce development.
I like that. Okay, we'll hear more about that from our city here.
To back up, when I was at the school district, it became very important to the administrators. They saw the kids that knew they were gonna go four-year college. It was pretty, you knew those kids, you could pick them out. But then there was a population that you're just trying to get them to graduate, and then there's this in between. So they really started to focus on the bottom and that middle group. What could we do to partner with companies to get them some training, get them graduated? Some of them would go on to 2, then 4-year colleges. So at the school level, it became very important to figure out what that percentage looked like, then work with the city on creating opportunity. And that was not, I wasn't the treasurer in Defiance, but this is the same type of setup that is going on here. There's this group of students in school that you can target and get them and train them and mold them and get them to stay in your community and become tax-paying citizens, which benefits everybody. And then they may when they grow up a little bit, a little more mature, they may go on and finish their 4-year degree, or, there's so many businesses that have so many avenues, all sorts of jobs, from janitor to engineer to electrical, and I think that was really important to the school district to make sure that the kids could see that. And I know Defiance does a lot of that too, just because my kids go to school here and my husband teaches here, but it's a benefit for the city as well. So it's good to be a part of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great story.
Yeah. Go ahead. That's all I got. I can talk about that forever,
I'll
but
try to be
it's
quick.
so beneficial.
I talk way too much. I'll try to be quick. 2 things, back up. My wife and I own a family restaurant. We have about 25 to 28 employees, depending on any given point. We utilized Erica's office to put some positive videos out there, stuff on our needs of hiring. And we've seen kind of a shift, and I'll say the bank side also. We had a stretch there where you couldn't even get an applicant, let alone get a quality applicant. And now that's changed in the last 6 months. I mean, we're just about full staffed at the bank, and we are full staffed, not gonna go at the restaurant. So we filled all those positions, and we're starting to see now a shifting, a settlement. Now if it's because there's not any stimulus checks floating around like there used to be, but like at the restaurant specifically, you know, we're seeing people that have been there for 5 to 6 months now, you know, which was unheard of in our first 3 years of operation. So we opened right before COVID, by the way. Why not?
Right. So you must be doing something right if you're still open.
But I think the twist on Erica's videos and stuff, I don't know that we got any direct from that, but what it does, it creates that positive atmosphere of your business. So we did one on the bank, and we did one on the restaurant too. So it puts that positive spin out there for anybody that sees it to really know what your culture and what you're believing, what you're trying to do as an organization. Shift gears now from the education side. I spent 6 years on the MRBD board in the county. I spent adjunct professor at Northwest State College teaching banking and finance classes, 8 years on the school board, 6 years on the Northwest State Foundation, and now I'm on the board of trustees. I believe in education. I think it's needed, but I think there's all levels. I went in the military out of high school, 3 years. I spoke one time at Northwest State on the graduate luncheon, and my speech was on never quit learning, and I finished with, it took me 9 years to get a 2-year degree. Then later on, I went to Defiance College and got my bachelor's degree. When I was at the MRDD and then on the school board, every child that had a developmental need was created an individual education plan. I think we need an individual education plan or path for every individual when they start in school. And that means to follow them and tell them all the options and let them kind of pick and realize their personality to say, okay, am I a college bound, or am I, yeah, I want to get there, but I know I'm not ready. Like myself, I went in the military, you know, it helped with paying it, number one, but number two was I wasn't ready. And I got the discipline in the military when I did it. So, you know, I'm a middle piece as I look at it from Northwest State Community College, and I'm really pushing the partnerships, but it starts back at everybody's fighting for the same dollar. So when I was on the school board, we didn't want those kids to go post-secondary, although Fairview, the school I was involved with, pushed them to do it. We were one of the high users at Northwest State for that program, but when we did, we had to give up funding. So, you know, we're trying to pay our bills over here at the local high school. The Northwest State's trying to pay their bills. Defiance College is trying to pay their bills. My youngest daughter went to Heidelberg, and she walked in as a sophomore, took 12 classes, never left the Fairview High School campus. And she was able to save basically $38,000 by doing that. So obviously, as a parent, I'm saying, go girl. You know, you need to do those things, but I don't think there's enough awareness of what the options are for these students to really pick that path or pick that plan, if you will, on what they do, because I do think we all have to share that dollar. You know, and Northwest State can't try and grab all the dollars and give Defiance College, and Defiance College can't grab all and not give us some. We got to figure ways to work together, even at the high schools and everybody, so that we can get a good, solid workforce, and then my goal, keep them all in Northwest Ohio, back to the tax base. County commissioners like it when we pay taxes.
Well, that's great comments. Appreciate you.
Don't know how we get there.
Your dedication.
I don't have the answer to that. But
Jim, anything you want to add?
I don't have anything to add with that room of comments.
All right. All right, President, bring us home here as we're talking about workforce.
John is right. You know, we're starting back to what we're going to call DC CAP, which was a great program that ended abruptly in 2015. I think, though, some of the things I mentioned, Jacket Journey, which is our career readiness program, and part of the need for that is because we have about 50% of our students are first generation students, and about 50% are post students. Not making any judgment about who those students are, what their home is like. There's a need to understand, if you're going to be a college graduate, what some of those professional expectations are. But we work with area businesses to do internships, and we're encouraging more than one internship of students, because there's a learning curve. There's also, do I really enjoy this profession enough to spend my lifetime in it? So we encourage those kind of internships. And then, you know, we have an autism program. So for students on the spectrum, we support them, kind of an individual education plan. We support them on that journey to being able to both socially and intellectually perform in that.
Do you find that the kids enjoy the internships, or you find the employers are willing to have kids for internships?
Every once in a while, I get a call and they send us 3 more like this guy. So
Okay.
I think
That's good.
we fight on 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And I do have a quick
Sure.
comment. It's from Lisa Beecher, the Small Business Development Center. She said Tech Cred has been a great program for increasing hiring in the trades. And as a small business owner myself, I've been able to partner with 4 County Career Center, hiring students, helping them graduate, and giving them practical experience for career growth.
Great, thank you. Well, Erica, bring us home here as we kind of conclude our time together.
Okay, well, our workforce manager, Hannah Waterman, couldn't be here today. She's actually listening to us. But she's done a tremendous job on some of the programs that we offer. And Paige is always there helping her with those things as well. But I would say we have been, going back to what Phil was saying, trying to make awareness to our young students that we have so many amazing things happening right here in Defiance County. So we are doing regularly bus tours. We did a bus tour that involved the healthcare industry. From that healthcare bus tour, where we took the kids around, we know that the hospitals recruited some of those seniors to come and work with them. They have programs where they'll pay for their tuition out of school if they agree to come and work with them afterwards. So that's been wonderful. We did a bus tour with our local the Defiance City Fire Department. It's a public service tour just to make them aware of like the opportunities of working as a fire officer or a police officer, and getting them excited about the careers that are existing here. And then of course we do a lot of manufacturing tours. And then leading into that with manufacturing, we do have summer manufacturing camps that we do. And that has been amazing as well. One of the best stories that I heard out of that camp was, I think it was last year, we had like half and half. We had half girls, half boys, and it was a manufacturing camp. And the girl, I said, why do you want to do that? We did construction. That one was more of a construction focus. So we did construction, we did some manufacturing tours. But she's like, I saw that it was going to be, there was going to be construction. You guys were going to teach me how to do some things. She was like, my grandpa owns a construction company, and I'm going to be the one that runs it one day. And it's those stories of just making kids aware of what we have here. And so I think that we need to keep on doing that. But then you have to have a multi-approach. You can't just focus on the young. You got to focus on everybody, like what you're doing with your adult programming and working with the colleges, working with the high schools. It's all about partnerships, and we're never going to accomplish anything unless we just continue to work with one another. So I think that's what we've been striving to do. Having our board supportive of these workforce initiatives is key. We are able to devote time and then also allocate funds to that. We have a great partnership with Ohio Means Jobs, where they allow us to do very similar to what Sarah is doing. We can put together a marketing campaign for a company that's either hiring or a new company that's coming in. We could put together a social media campaign for them. One story that the power of digital advertising, if you're not using it, you should. I'm not saying that you shouldn't use print. You really should have an all above approach when it comes to trying to recruit. But we had a company that called and said, we just found out we got a new contract. We need 15 workers and we need them ASAP, or we might lose this contract. And we were able to recruit 15 employees by using the Ohio Means Jobs grant, along with the social media platforms that we were utilizing. So we were able to get them the workforce within 2 weeks. Now, that might have been a one-time thing, but we are consistently working with our employers, trying to make sure that they have the resources they need. So anybody listening, if there's something that there is a gap that we need to fill, let us know, because we don't know unless we know. So I guess.
Well, you worked with us to get Jacket Journey going.
Yeah.
Before you, it was Jerry Hayes, and
Yeah.
you were coming in and set up a series of focus groups so we could understand the major industries and what those needs were, so that we were relevant, right? That was helpful.
Yeah, you might not even know that a kid coming out of college doesn't know, the proper etiquette of XYZ.
Right.
That was eye-opening.
Yeah.
Yep.
And adding on to what Erica said, we're always trying to come up with creative ideas to help all of you. And that's why we set up these roundtables, so that way we can come together and talk about these things. And like I mentioned, we have these mentorship programs where it's that the individuals who are already in the workforce, that we can just help them through the process of what roles they want to go into. And then we're having a second chance program, and there's just all these ideas that we constantly are coming up with in our office to support all of you. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. And if anyone has any questions, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Well, I wanted to introduce Pat McCauley. Pat's back here. He's with my office, and Pat does a great job. He's very accessible. And so Pat will share you, I guess, some of his contact information with you. We've got some great programs. We're happy to help. And you talked about partnerships. We want to be a great partner for you in Northwest Ohio. So if there's anything I can do or Pat can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. Pat, you want to just mention anything here or give them your contact info?
Yeah, Erica knows how to find me, and if you need a business card of mine, just let me know and I'll get that to you. But if there's anything that I can do to help you out, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I can forward your contact information out to all of them.
That would be great. Thank you. We really appreciate your time this morning. Defiance is in a great spot. We know that you're going to be successful. And as I said before, we want to be great partners for you at the state level. So thanks for coming back.
Thanks. Yes.
Yeah.
Can I get a quick picture real quick of everybody?
Since the restaurant's going well, we'd like to.
Okay, so I got your email. It's in my inbox.